So you think you can survive the zombie apocalypse. If the zombie apocalypse started today, would you survive past the theme music? Dr. Jess has been using zombie apocalypse prep as a sneaky way to help patients deal with real-life chaos. Turns out, planning for the undead is a lot like planning for the world falling apart. Because, let's be honest, 2025 is basically one bad day away from a zombie movie anyway. That's the topic of this week's live show. So you think you can survive prepping for the zombie apocalypse. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss it.
You'll need water purification tabs, a knife, and zero trust in your neighbors.
Zombies are a metaphor for late-stage capitalism, decay, and people who don't return their shopping carts.
Is it moral to eat the rich if they've already turned?
Did you know most people's apocalypse plan is based on wishful thinking and vision board-style manifestations? No map, no plan, just positive thoughts and maybe a can of SpaghettiOs. Truth is, you can't solo your way through the end of the world. You need people, community, a friend who knows how to garden and won't steal your batteries. And if your survival plan includes crypto, NFTs, or building a bunker in Florida, sweetie, you're already a goner. It's time to be prepared, not paranoid. And if you don't know where to start, we got you. Because if you're planning on surviving the apocalypse, you can't do it alone. Join us live this Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific on YouTube video posted directly after, and get the full survival guide at cultofbrighterdays.org. Bring your flashlight, your snacks, and your existential dread. While you're here, check out our other shorts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, we're live too, so I caught that one right there. Wow, somebody, well, it looks like they popped off right when we came on, so that works good. Anyway, hi everybody. Michael Dorland here from the Cult of Brighter Days Saturday show, The Good Word, 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon because we don't have anything better to do. I'm here with Dr. Jess, Bishop Sara, Robert of the Adjacent Faith, and Step Pope Richard. And we're going to do a little talk today about the video we just watched about surviving the zombie apocalypse. And so I'm going to be in the moderator role this time, and I'm going to make sure all these people out here actually, give us their opinions and everything. So, and it's pretty easy because if you go with my main comment from the get-go, it's like fast zombies. What's the point? Just get it over with and everything.
But that's not the point of it.
And if it's slow zombies to prepare is just to make sure you don't know anybody who's going to trip you. That's how you prepare for slow zombies.
Okay, but the whole point of preparing for zombie apocalypse isn't to really prepare for zombie apocalypse. It's to prepare for the dumpster fire that we're in, right?
Yeah, my same solution. Just make sure you're not around people that can trip you or will trip you,
Okay, I guess that's valid.
Avoid the agent of provocateurs.
Look, my job in any future apocalypse is just going to be able to keep the solar panels running so everybody's iPads are charged up and make sure everybody has enough comic books and books to read. That is my entire job in the future of a zombie-infested world or a MAGA-infested world or anything like that. I am here to provide distractions, and I have solar powers, and I have iPads. So we're good on my part. So what do you guys actually think needs to be done so I can hear about what you think I should be doing other than that?
Befriend kaiju.
So you want a bigger enemy to fight your smaller enemies?
He said befriend it so that it can attack for you.
But can you really befriend a kaiju?
Godzilla. He's on our side.
Yeah. Have you not watched this Saturday morning cartoon of Godzilla? 1976? 2 seasons of it.
Sarah?
I also saw the one that had Godzuki in it.
Yeah. The movie? Monster Island?
No, it's cartoons.
The cartoon Godzuki.
Well, there's
was the little Godzilla.
Yeah, they had
Like
a real
the-
one
The
before
little
that.
green sprout to the Jolly Green Giant.
Yep. They had a
Yeah,
real one before
Baby
that.
Godzilla.
Baby Godzilla from Monster Island.
Did they call him Godzuki?
They called him Baby Godzilla.
Okay, then that's not Godzuki, then, is it?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't have a defined name for the same creature.
I suppose that's possible.
Let's move over to Dr. Jess and Sarah, who are actually serious about this conversation, because no matter if zombies do come about, whether from fungus or, nanobots or some sort of open gateway to hell, I highly doubt any kaiju is going to burst from the ground in the next, year or so and rampage across. Well, actually, right now, with the way everything's going in the world, I'm not going to say that that's not a possibility. Okay, I will definitely say that that could be a possibility, just like aliens coming down to save our ass. But we probably should prepare for all of those things, shouldn't we, people?
That's my point, was that we should be prepared for all of this stuff, because trying to sit here and say that we should prepare for when the red hats make the rest of the country like a giant dumpster fire sounds a little bit paranoid. But if I say I want to, prepare for zombies, I can totally do that.
Okay.
It's a much more definable enemy right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a more risk-free conversation because you're not invested in the actual outcome.
Exactly.
It's not going to stress you out because you don't think it's going to happen.
Right. If I can have a magical villain rather than an actual villain, it's a lot easier to prepare for that magical villain.
Yeah, exactly. All you're doing is debating comic books at that point.
Right.
And-
Especially if I'm also going to do this by finding a magical solution. By, having my own little baby Godzilla in my backyard to help.
That's why I started with the kaiju.
Exactly.
Mini kaiju. Well, I could see mini kaiju going for that, but it's also I could see as a good way of that's why I can't play modern day military shooters, is because if I really wanted to watch terrorists get killed or attack things like that, I could just turn on the news and pretend I'm there. I'd rather attack aliens. So, I get the point of approaching this. So, Dr. Jess, where did you come up with this ingenious idea?
It's one of the activities that I do with my patients whenever they're very worried about something that seems bigger than them that they can't overcome. And so if you take it away from, you're going to prepare for, something that's going to happen, whether it's political or, something, and you say, okay, no, let's prepare like we're preparing for a zombie apocalypse. And what do you have to get ready? What sort of things do you need to have? And how much of that is worth getting ready now versus when the zombie apocalypse actually starts? And if you can break it down into steps as to, okay, yeah, before it starts, we should probably keep X, Y, Z on hand. And after it starts, these are the three things that we need to grab. Then it makes it feel more in control.
But could it lead to the possibility of somebody going into a prepper mind state, especially if they're in a situation where obviously you're dealing with people's emotional states on a daily basis and every single session and everything? Is there a danger of it tripping over into full-on prepper mindset? And how do you prevent that?
In my opinion, that's why you have to break it into stages. You need to say, these are the things you need to be prepared for. These are the, you need to make sure that you have food on hand, but you don't necessarily need to have a gun in your house with kids because that's unsafe, but you know where to get one and how you would do it if zombie apocalypse started.
Okay.
So break it into stages that are reasonable for you.
To get into a black and white mindset around preppers, either because kind of like autism, it's a continuum. It's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So having 3 months worth of canned food is kind of good advice for everybody, assuming you've got the storage space for it.
Having
Especially with the
6
tariffs.
months Having 6 months worth of toilet paper on hand may be a little bit of overkill.
Unless you get a really good coupon for them. And if you can leverage that really good coupon, I knew somebody who did that. They used coupons and they would stockpile, like they'd have like 5 cases of something in their house because they had a good coupon that they could use, and they just purchased all 5 cases at once.
There's a show on Netflix about coupon queens or something like that.
Yeah, the extreme couponers
that went to jail.
Yes. Because they would fill their garage with stuff that they got extreme couponing. They'd get a couple of $100 worth of laundry soap and toilet paper and towels and whatever else, and it would cost them like $5 out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then there was that other show where they like sold the coupons down, reprocessed them through Mexico, and then
that was but there used to be an actual like a live show, like, you know, like
on like TLC before
on TLC or something, where it was all about,
TLC was still the learning channel.
Hey, when it was all about couponing. Now the couponing thing isn't as big as it was back then because manufacturers sort of locked that down a little bit more. But I think in the coming economic situation, even recently with the prices that are going to go up with the tariffs and everything, starting to coupon might not be a bad thing if you can find them. So
and stocking up on some stuff.
I mean, right now the only thing I buy at the grocery store is stuff that's on sale for decent prices. I'm not going out there and even looking at couponing when they're trying to sell me a $20 steak. You know, maybe I'm cheap, but I'm not buying a $20 steak.
Well, the $20 steaks were good last week for Mother's Day, but you know.
Yeah, but I got them for $7.99.
Well, you mother.
To be
No,
fair,
but I'm a buyer.
To be fair, it's not just things that are coupons. Like there are some things that are good to stockpile a little bit of. Things, you know, like rice, beans, canned food, stuff that you can eat. It's good to have a little bit of, and stuff that keeps. Yeah.
So
like canned tomatoes so the kids can have spaghetti. Like that's a necessity, right?
So Dr. Jess, how do you stockpile stuff for your mental health other than stockpiling food?
Well, you make sure you have at least a month's worth of meds on hand, right? Get the 90 days if you can. But then like you need to have things like toys and books and things to do that make it so that you're not like focused on what's going on in the news and what's stressing you out. So you need to make sure you have those things and you're not worried about them not being there.
Okay. Well, and that can lead into the question that maybe Bishop Sara can answer. How do you stockpile stuff for your soul?
That's, again, like making sure you have at least 1 month worth of your meds, but it's also making sure that you have like those places that are going to still have meaning for you, making sure that you're protecting your community, your little bubble of the people that are going to be with you, making sure that that's protected, making sure, you know, you have those books and those other things of meaning that are going to sustain you through this.
Now that brings up a worrying concern from George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, where there was an established community in an apartment building where they were keeping all the dead downstairs in pens because, you know, you didn't shoot the dead in the head, and there was like some sort of like belief system around that. So how can you prevent?
Oh no, you got to shoot the dead, man.
Well, no, but my point is, how can you prevent yourself from falling into a community? Because it's not just from that one. There's been several movies and TV shows where
you know, it's your kid is now the one bit, and you got to shoot your kid.
Well, and the general community mindset. There was one that took place in, it was a Romero likes doing this one a lot, but there was one that was out in England, and they kept all the dead in the barn and everything because they were all family members and everything. So they were still part of the family. Yeah. And so, and like I said, the apartment complex in the original Dawn of the Dead in 78 was a good example. So how do you not fall in with a group with that mindset? Because you said community is a big thing. How do you make sure you're in the right community, or how do you turn that community to be the right community for you, other than being on an island, which we don't have yet? And I'd shoot you in the head if you became a zombie, Sarah. I just want to let you know.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I trust that you all are going to shoot me when I get bit. So,
well, no, we'll wait for a little while, you know. So
don't wait. Shoot me now. If I get bit, shoot me. I'm done.
Well, depends on how fast you anyway.
You know, wait, no. Actually, that's the worst part of watching like Walking Dead and stuff is somebody's been bit and they're in pain and they're dying, and we let them go through the entire pain, and then we shoot them.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's hard to know, especially early on, how survivable this is going to be. As long as the symptoms are like bad flu, you're not going to want to shoot people. But eventually you get to a point where like, okay, we know what's going on here. We've got to figure out, do we try to continue to try to save people who fall ill, or do we write them off immediately?
Yeah, that goes back to like, is it the type of, okay, so going with this, that the zombie thing is going to be some sort of pandemic, right?
You know,
then it's like, what?
I was just thinking of the whole death panel concept and everything like that, where now you're like thinking, well, they got bit, so they're eventually going to, so we might as well throw them in the tar pit right now, instead of letting them linger around for a couple of weeks, depending on the type of infection it is.
Well, I think early on in any pandemic, we study it a little better first. So
I don't know. If I'm stuck at a gas station with the four of you, I don't think I'm going to be studying much of anything about that other than how fast does Richard decide to bite me.
No, this is going back to like, okay, if it's going to be a viral infection, the zombie pandemic is a viral infection. We can. There's the scientists that are going to be studying it, and then then the scientists start to get infected, and then it gets worse, and then the doctors and nurses get infected, and then like.
So how do we stockpile for the future of a zombie apocalypse for scientific research? I mean,
well, we don't make more cuts to the damn CDC, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I'm saying if the five of us are in a diner out on Route 119 in a small rural community, how do we establish that scientific component you're talking about for our community?
So I think that's actually a good point to like my point of doing this, because there's only certain things you're going to have control of. You can't stockpile scientists. We don't have scientists to stockpile. So that's not in your realm of capability. But you can make sure you have first aid items on hand, and you can make sure you stay aware of the news, and you make sure you have communication lines open. And those things you can do. You
wearing a leather jacket.
Yeah. You can't, you take what you can do. You can't stockpile the things you can't do.
Okay. So
there's two. First thing you do when you think there's a zombie apocalypse is try to Google and find where your nearest gun store is and your nearest hardware store is.
Why? So
you know where those are.
It is true. It is true. You do that, so you know to avoid those places for the first 4 or 5 days, because they're going to be swarming with people with the exact same idea.
No, that's
going to be dangerous.
You mentioned being at a diner. You have a car. You run them over.
So Robert, your idea in zombie apocalypse is to get rid of your fellow human beings, and rather than collect them and use them as part of the community so that you are more likely to survive. Wouldn't that make more sense?
Depends on who.
If they're getting in my way from having a fair share of a resource, they're not looking at being part of my community anyway. If they're trying to load up an SUV with every gun in the store, they are looking to create a small nation. They are not looking to create a community. They're trying to become.
It matters when you approach them if they are like-minded or not, right?
It's worthwhile to try to ascertain whether they can be reasoned with.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spent the last 4 or 5 years exploring that option in our current situation.
Obviously, you've never played DayZ, but
well, that's true. I've never played DayZ.
Because you log into the server and like almost immediately somebody will shoot you and take your stuff.
Okay, but in the current climate that we're in,
Okay.
I agree with Richard. Like, we have an idea of what our zombies are doing and how reasonable they are.
Well, we also know what the people are doing and how reasonable they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you define the zombies versus the people in the current, if you translate it over to the current situation? Who are the people who are the zombies? I was saying all red hats are zombies, but
they're probably more reasonable if they're not shooting at you the moment they see you.
I think there's a problem there. And Dr. Jess points it out that in late stage capitalism, it's really hard to notice the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was going to assume that they are.
No, I'm just saying people in general and zombies in late stage capitalism, they're so similar in so many respects. Can you really tell the difference?
Yeah, but the late stage capitalists are more like fast zombies.
I don't know. They're staring at their iPhones. I can get away from them a lot easier. Dr. Jess is sighing there.
So we're going back to that idea as to whether we're going to assess whether they are good and have an assumption that people are generally good, or are we doing the assumption that they're generally evil and we're just going to shoot them?
Well, I don't have a gun. That's why I'm going to a gun store.
Right. Well, once you get the gun from the gun store, you ran over everybody in the parking lot.
Well, so going back a step, yeah. If they're loading up and just putting in gun after gun after gun, they're probably not looking to share. If they were sharing, they would leave some because the zombies aren't going to use them.
Well, I mean, they're probably sharing them with their community.
Or they're just hoarding a resource.
Well, yeah, there's always that too. Making money off of it. But like,
well, it's not so much money as power.
I think one of the good things for any type of situation like this zombie apocalypse, as well as, like I said, if you go there, there's going to be a bunch of people thinking the same thing and swarming the same way. And it probably would be better to pull up possibly with a community as opposed to in your own home individually. So knowing who to lean on for resources and who are good resources. So not only planning for the food and everything like that, but making sure that you have like-minded people who are on the same mindset, so that we can send Robert to the gun store, but the rest of us can, make sure there's food for Robert when he comes back, if he wants to.
And there is something to be said for, okay, the people that are shoveling ammunition into the back of their truck by the shovelful are probably not going to be super open, but you can at least ask, hey, I've got a bunch of my own food. Do you have room at your compound? Would you be willing to accept another Deadeye shot with some food?
I agree, because if there's anything we've learned from all of the zombie shows and all of the zombie movies, the people who create community are the ones who do well. And the people who have communities that are based on that hoarding, power mentality, they end up falling. I mean,
yeah. But the ones that have
shows,
that are like, oh yeah, we need farmers. We need
Because that's another thing that kind of gets glossed over in most, certainly in the long-term zombie media that we see, like The Walking Dead, etc., is that they just kind of assume that there will always be gasoline for your car. They just kind of assume that there will always be ammunition.
That's one of my peeves about Walking Dead. Gasoline has a 18-month shelf life?
Or yeah, it's measured in months.
Oh, I'm sure they converted them all to methane, just like in Mad Max. So,
okay.
You know.
And tires. You know what the lifespan is on a tire?
About 6 years till I had to replace mine, but that was with a lot of driving. So,
yeah, you depending on how much you drive, it's not the tread life that's going to get you; it's the age of the rubber.
I think the big thing that people don't take into consideration as necessary in a zombie apocalypse is the services that are provided to people that are necessary to even last beyond the length of gas or rubber. So like medical, somebody who knows medicine, somebody knows what antibiotics to give or how to look for signs of reaction, or in the case of Dr. Jess, mental health. Somebody there to determine that Robert's idea of driving to the gun store is probably not the best idea because he might not be thinking straight, and maybe he should have a couple Xanax and lie down in the camper.
Well, in any sort of apocalypse scenario, you're talking about multiple systems that are going to be collapsing at the same time. So the economic collapse, you have infrastructure collapse, you're going to have medical infrastructure as well collapse. So like those hospitals, those organizations are going to be gone. So how are you going to survive?
Well,
if not gone, overwhelmed.
Gone or overwhelmed.
So we have some combination of.
So electricity won't be up for long.
Right.
Water will last a little bit longer, but not much.
So yeah, you also need to be stockpiling those like water treatment contaminated.
So we need to make sure that we train our children to only want $2, not $30. Right?
Yeah.
Is that so they have to have that established as a belief.
I'm pretty sure that most of America has been on that for the last 6 decades of not throwing dolls at their children tens at a time. I just feel like that is, I'm maybe I'm wrong. If you know different, correct me, please. But I don't think most families in America shower $30 on their kid per holiday.
You're telling me that like in all of our hoarding of resources, we're not going to be hoarding 1,000 Cabbage Patch Kids?
See, well, here's the thing that people don't miss from that comment, and this is actually what it is when the person was asking the question, I don't think he was saying you dump $30 on the kid. I think what he was saying is you had a selection of $30 on the shelf, but we only manufacture $2 in America, so those are the only ones that are going to be on the shelf, and you're going to have a choice between Betty and
think you're
Susan.
Giving that guy way too much.
No.
I think you're giving him way too much credit with that.
Right. But what I'm saying is, when you take his comment and apply it to reality, what he's saying is going back to American manufacturing. Ignore what he meant.
Asked the
person who asked the question.
Yeah. See, Michael, I view the statement is along the lines of that gun shop where I'm going to take all the guns and I'm going to have the power. You get what I leave you.
Yeah, but that's
so really that mentality, I like back to zombies, I think is what is the downfall for most people. If you aren't like looking out for your neighbor, if you're not looking out for your community, if you're not thinking of, who can I be friends with that knows how to garden and doesn't kill everything like I do?
Right.
Who do I know that actually knows how to put a Band-Aid on? Who do I know that knows how to purify water or
who can suture a deep cut?
If I'm not looking at that, then I'm already screwed.
Yeah. Stephen King pointed out on The Stand, where several people were dying from appendicitis or falling off a roof and breaking their leg and nobody around to help and everything. So, I mean, that they don't show a lot of that past the initial day of the situation.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, breaking your leg and not having anybody around to help is definitely a thought-provoking moment. I've been there.
You broke your
somebody came by.
There was I forget what the show was. I was watching a video of it, and this anthropologist was asked, "What's the beginning of society?" And she said, "Seeing that someone survived the leg break." Because you find a skeleton from 20,000 years ago or whatever, and you see someone that survived. They've got an obvious break in their leg that they survived, and that's not an individual thing. That's a society thing.
Someone took on the responsibility to bring this person food,
yes,
until they could get out to do their own.
Exactly. They brought them water. They brought them food. They protected them from predators, and that's what society does.
Well, but we've seen animals do that to each other too,
and they're doing that's a version of society.
See, I thought it started out with a large black obelisk in the ground.
Teaching the monkeys how to fight?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I learned.
The obelisk was actually kind of a counter, other than encouraging people to use tools.
Oh, you
they
read
did
the
use
books.
those tools as a weapon. So
yeah. See, there's people here that read the books and saw the movie. So
yeah. See, I caught that right away. Anyway, so that
the
being
first use of any tool is a weapon, so you can hunt. You're not using it to plane wood to build a house.
I would actually say one of the first tools was a stick, because you could use it to stick it into a termite mound and pull the termites out and eat it, because that's
a weapon against the termites.
The termites would view that as a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Okay, are we going down to that level of comprehension? Because I mean, are we going to stay at the level of semi consciousness, or?
Okay, so let's focus exclusively on humans. What are humans going back the earliest?
Not zombies.
Monkeys with sticks.
Before hunter-gatherers.
Zombies with sticks.
Monkeys with sticks. I said
zombies with
zombies.
They're scavengers. Human beings at first were scavengers, just like so many other animals.
Have you been to Walmart lately? It's the same thing. We haven't changed at all. It's just scavenging. Oh, sorry.
Now that is unfair. Walmart actually has fairly decent food.
Stop there. It's still scavenging.
I thought that was
never rotten. It's
I thought that was browsing.
Never rotten.
Dr. Jess, can you get us back on track, please?
I think we
moderator.
need to change and ask another question. Like,
well, we asked about
what one thing would you take with you if you had to evacuate?
This
my
is
go bag.
This is a good example.
Do you have a go bag?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have in it?
I've got a knife, a flashlight, steel and flint, an emergency blanket, a what is that? A first aid kit, including sutures, water purification tablets, and that's just stuff I'm remembering off the top of my head.
Robert can ride in my car,
and that's because I used to live in Texas where the power went out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, see, but here, I mean, I would look at it if it hit, the first day it hit would be my go bag, which is stay inside the house while everybody runs around outside, because it has all the stuff that's in his go bag. It just, I'm protected from people running around outside because I keep the lights off. You know, the ones with the guns that they got from the gun store.
So you're going to let the right. So you're going to let the first wave just kill themselves.
That's pretty much what I plan to on any apocalypse.
Okay.
You keep your house in a state that it looks like it isn't opulent enough to have a lot of everything that everybody wants, but not run down enough that it looks like it's easy to take over. And just keep a couple of rolls of concertina wire outside so that the minute it happens, you can just roll it out across the top of it, you know?
So your go bag is actually going to have concertina wire in it. That's your thing.
Yeah, it'd be like go, stick it up there. And
do you actually have that in your garage right now?
I don't know. I have so much stuff in my garage, I can't even find out. It's just, I might have it. It's...
Who knows?
So
I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it, but I wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah. So instead of where I would go first, I mean, realistically, it would be home. The first thing I would actually need would be some large plywood to cover my door wall. The front door is metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my windows are not built on the typical fireman height for getting into the house. For whatever reason, my windows are like 6 feet off the ground.
We've got metal windows, so we could electrify all of them pretty easy.
They wouldn't care.
If there was enough bodies piled around it from the people who tried, eventually they would.
You couldn't put that much voltage through, actually, Michael. You'd burn down the house.
Well, no, just enough to shock them, so then you can shoot them as they're crawling through, see?
Oh, okay.
But see, I think this is a good thing. I think this is a good, I mean, going back to the real topic, I think this is a good idea of a sense of community, because you want to have people that you can get together with in these situations so that you're not trapped in the house by yourself. So see, this would be a good thing for Sarah and Carl to flee to our place, because we have the swimming pool and the hot tub and the concertina wire around the thing, so we can relax.
I'm good at gardening, so.
And we have a spot for gardening and everything.
So, do you use salt water or chlorine?
Chlorine.
They have a chlorine pool.
Okay. How is it safe to drink chlorinated water like that?
No, but you can get things that take the chlorine out of it, so that.
Okay, so you got a great water source there.
Yeah, and it's a deep pool too. It's like a 13-foot deep pool, so we're set for a while.
Last you for a while, yeah.
Yeah, at least until enough of the people running around outside have like taken the real danger of people with guns out of the distance, and then we can flee to Mount Lemon, or we can flee to the coast.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I wouldn't need to go to a gun store. Again, I'd just come home.
Yeah.
See.
You also don't have children at home, so that makes it easier for you to have that decision.
You mean I don't have children at home, so yeah.
You don't.
I think everybody should learn how to shoot a crossbow in a bowl, because you don't have to worry about ammo then.
I know how to shoot a crossbow.
Crossbow bolts shatter, man.
Yeah, but they're a lot easier to replicate than a bullet with gunpowder down the road. Long-term planning here.
I'm sorry. I've watched Alone. It's harder to replicate those than you think.
What?
Whenever they ran out of arrows, or they lost their arrows on Alone.
That's why you have somebody in your community who knows how to do fletching and can make a damn arrow. And that one guy who made the arrow used that arrow to kill somebody, remember?
Not something, but yes.
Okay, he killed, well, it depends on if we're talking about weapons attacking creatures and community. And I mean, it wasn't a termite, obviously, but...
That's true. It was a squirrel, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bird. I don't remember.
And remember, that squirrel was trying to come down and get that other squirrel out of the trap, too. Another sense of community.
I read a book a while back set up in this area, about post electromagnetic pulse. And it was focused on kind of a cul-de-sac area off into the hills and the woods. And
You talking
they all
about Seven
banded together.
Eves?
I'm sorry?
You talking about Seven Eves?
No.
Okay.
It is a series of books all based on kind of the same premise of the electromagnetic pulse that happens in October. So the original book was October Fall. And so they've got a number of different authors who did versions of that in their own communities.
Gotcha.
And so it was interesting to watch people talk about trying to navigate around Spearfish, which is just across the border in South Dakota. And they banded together as their little cul-de-sac area. And there was a prepper in the group. And there were a number of people who had some military experience. And they had a bunch of kids. So they taught them how to shoot. They didn't really get far enough into the story to worry about running out of ammunition. But they did go out into the woods to hunt deer and deal with people coming into their little community. They tried to be unobtrusive so that people didn't necessarily know that they had this little haven back off the road. But it was very much about building communities. They reached out to people in town. They had ham radios, so they were able to build a network of communication more broadly, so that when foreign armies invaded from Canada, they knew about it ahead of time and could prepare and coordinate. So it was very much about building up this community to work together, to find people who had the right skills, to get people that you trusted, and help each other out when they could. When the foreign army set up shop down at the Memorial Hospital downtown, they had people that would go talk to the soldiers and try to learn, gain information on what their capabilities were, et cetera, et cetera. It was all very well planned. But they didn't have nuclear fallout to worry about because the EMP happened high enough in the atmosphere that it was just electronics and electrical grid that was hurt, communication systems. They didn't have hordes of zombies running around. They just had individual people who were being antisocial and trying to be highwaymen, grabbing people off of the roads to take what they could get.
And how did they deal with them?
They shot them.
I told you.
It's very much, well, the guys came at with them with guns first. So, but it was very much a Second Amendment fan fiction story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Han Solo always writes it that way, Yeah,
they shot first.
Okay, so do you guys know what the government says should be in our basic supply kits, like Robert's go bag?
A copy of the Constitution?
No.
Oh, I have one. I have one on a little metal plate from Penn and Teller.
Yeah, that's not a requirement. We don't need that.
I got mine right here next to my computer. Always. Because I need to quote from it periodically.
Mine has an autograph of Penn and one side and Teller on the other, so I can't read it. So it doesn't really matter. But I keep it because it's got Penn and Teller's autograph on it. So
that's like saying you can either choose Penn or Teller. They don't agree on the Constitution.
No. It's on one side. It's a metal card, so you can always keep it in your wallet.
Let's go back to the.
The government list.
What's in your go bag?
What's in your go bag? So water, food, batteries, flashlights, first aid kits, a whistle,
Mirror.
A mask. I'm not to mirror yet. Plastic sheeting, because I guess we need plastic sheeting for
where you wrap the bodies up so they don't start staining the ground. And
plastic sheeting is good as a rain poncho or catching water.
Moist towelettes, garbage bags, a wrench or pliers to turn off utilities.
Yeah.
a can opener, maps, because everyone forgets maps, an extra cell phone with chargers, and then additionally emergency supplies is soap, hand sanitizer, prescription medications. I think that should go in the first part. Non-prescription medication, glasses, pet food, stuff like that.
I have a radio that has a solar charger and a crank. With USB connectors on it and a light.
Yeah, you can get a little flashlight that's got a squeeze handle on it. That'll let you charge the internal capacitor.
Yeah. Me and Richard understand the concerns about can openers, though. Because there was one point when we hiked up to Devil's Bathtub to Cleopatra Mine, and we had taken some bottles of root beer up with us, but we didn't have anything to open them up, so we ended up having to bash them on rocks to get the tops of them off because they were real bottle caps.
They weren't twist off.
Yeah.
I have since learned that a tent stake and the dull end of a hatchet will work as a can opener.
Actually, anything small that will fit. I do this with, and people are like, "Wow, how'd you do that?" You have the bottle, you have like an inch, but you lever something over your finger. It doesn't matter what it is. My favorite is like magic markers. But anything of the right size will work for that. You can use a spoon.
A sharp rock and another heavy rock will open up a can if you really, really are desperate enough.
Or we can pack a can opener.
I imagine you guys had your keys with you, right?
No.
I don't remember. We drove out there. I presume I had a car key in my pocket.
Yeah, maybe.
So you just bend up the little tines one at a time.
We were thirsty.
And it was a hike. And it was anyway.
We were only 20 years old at the time too. So
anyway, needless to say, we understand the importance of a can opener or a multi-tool. Or a multi-tool.
You mean that sounded like you needed a bottle opener.
Doesn't matter what we need. We need something. How's that sound? Anyway, the point of it is, see how I lost the track of the point. We understand can openers and little things like that people forget all the time. You don't think you're going to need that until you actually need it.
Yeah.
I think the map is actually more important than people, think of, because I mean, we all grew up when you didn't have maps on your phone, so we have the idea. But
right, we can all read a paper map.
I know that there's lots. I was just talking to someone recently who felt like they couldn't leave their house because they couldn't find their phone, and therefore didn't have maps to be able to get around.
Well, even if you have a map, if you don't know how to use a compass, what good's that gonna? I mean, you're still gonna. Do you know which direction the sun goes? I'm some of these kids nowadays, I don't know if they even know that it goes across, where's north? I don't know. The sun's all the way down over here, but they still can't find north. It's sun setting. Look,
90 degrees.
Find north, okay? I have no idea. Would not know how to figure that out at all. To all of our younger listeners out there, I'm sure you could figure it out just fine. I'm talking about the other ones, the other ones that, not you, the other ones.
And if you
at
don't
school.
know how, you should ask us, because we'll help you.
Don't imply that they may not know how.
Not them, the other ones. If
Anybody
yeah.
that doesn't know how to find north in broad daylight, you can
we'll help you.
Our way.
I'll tell you what, the only time it's a problem is when it's noon.
Well, no, that's not true. That's not true. If you're walking through a forest, it's a problem. And if you're walking up in hills and mountains, it's a problem because you can't get a good beat on where the sun is necessarily.
Right.
So, I mean, it's still important to know what a compass is and how it's used, and that it's not magic.
If you have a good feel for kind of what time of day it is, if you also know that in the northern hemisphere at noon, the sun is kind of southish from where you are, then you can turn around real quick and north will be the other side.
Yeah, a stick in the ground helps.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah. And then use breadcrumbs, because we know how effective that is to find your way back. Oh, wait.
Like,
Thank you,
To
Hansel.
be fair to Hansel and Gretel, their first idea was pebbles. They only went to the breadcrumbs after they couldn't get any pebbles.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's think about that for a minute. You're out in the woods, you've got bread, and there's pebbles. How can you not find pebbles on the ground out in the woods to the point where you have to use your bread, which you would eat?
well, I mean, maybe it's like in Labyrinth where the little guys are coming up and twisting and pulling them back down and
We're dealing
messing
with
up where you put stuff anyway.
we're dealing with
It's the
zombies
zombies.
here, not goblins.
It's the zombies.
They're eating the bread
So
or the
the
pebbles.
zombies are eating the pebbles because they don't know the difference between pebbles
Are they
and
like
bread.
or maybe they're like chickens and they have to have stones in their gizzards so that they can, like actually digest the food, so they eat all the pebbles.
So if you've placed the pebbles down, it's because the zombies are picking them up to lick the fingerprints off or whatever.
I think
It's because you touch them, they want them.
Going back to the real topic, one of the things that's obviously missing out of the bag is you need a stockpile pebbles in your kit.
Obviously.
So your go bag needs to have
Obviously.
some
Yeah.
pebbles.
And you might as well have a
Actually-
slingshot while you're at it.
That's going to be a better use of the pebbles.
Not necessarily. When you think about it, there are points and times where leaving a trail behind where people could follow you are not necessarily a bad idea. And if you have like distinctive glass beads or something that don't stick out like a red flag and everything, but people know what they're looking for, you might be able to make safe paths that people can follow from one point to another.
Remember that stick?
No, not that. Which stick are you talking about? That
The one that
stick or
you're
the
using as a
other
compass?
stick? Or
The
one of the
you're
other
using for-
sticks?
the stick that you're using for either pulling out termites or sighting the sun.
Yeah. It's a
Like if you're
multi-purpose
okay,
stick.
say you're downtown.
You make an arrow out of it
Yeah.
and leave it on the ground. And if the arrow is gone, it's stale information anyway.
But here's the thing. Say you're in a building downtown, okay, and you have a specific path mapped out that the zombies won't be noticed by. So you have like glass pebbles that are blue and you drop them. A stick that points a certain direction would
only
be
do once.
disrupted by somebody talking. It's only good for once. But if you use the pebbles, you can make a path, and it's better than spray painting an arrow on the side of a room where somebody knows, okay, there's somebody that way. Or, the arrow may go to the wrong place, which we found out playing the back rooms quite a bit. But anyway,
I
yeah,
have one
I mean,
other thought. Because most
Mhm.
of my thoughts around apocalypse were informed by the Cold War and living with at least three different missile silos within a 10-mile radius of the house I grew up in.
Mhm.
And the conclusion that I came to in those days was that I don't want to survive the apocalypse. I'd just as soon be vaporized in the first opening minutes.
thank you, Penn.
Richard, the only other comment that we got other than your comment to that on this was the same thing. Like, I don't plan on surviving. Like, just feed me to the zombies.
But the bigger point that I want to make here is that we didn't have a nuclear war. Cooler heads prevailed. We spent some time negotiating with the people on the other side, and we actually got a treaty to reduce the number of weapons that were available. Now, we didn't ever get rid of all of them,
let's add
the
in
other
a
side
yet.
did eventually disappear, only to be replaced by somebody that's almost as bad. Both sides, but I do think that it's worthwhile to think about. While it is definitely worthwhile to think about what to do in preparation for the worst, because the worst does happen. There are tornadoes, there are earthquakes, there are volcanoes over in Yellowstone. Stuff happens. But for the things that you can work on, it's worth thinking about how to work on them.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know how to convince people to stop supporting dictatorship. I don't know how they managed to support dictatorship in the first place. but I'm going to try.
Well, right now, well, first
okay,
off,
wait. Can I respond?
by
One
all
thing to
means,
that.
by all means.
I've been watching another YouTuber, and I would love to tell you who it is, but we'll put the comment up later. I'll go find it. And they spent time talking to the other side and studying, and how could they support a dictator, and how could they support the stuff that's going on. And it goes back to the thing that I always say: the people that we are fighting against are our neighbors, and they are not crazy, insane people who are evil and want to hurt us. They are just everyday people who think they're doing the best. They think that somebody's offered them a way out of something that looks bad to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they believe what they're hearing, and they believe that this is getting us out, and they believe that things are getting better. And so they're not horrible, bad people. The other people that are supporting the dictator.
Well, but here's the thing, and contrary to what you're saying, we're not fighting against them. I mean, in fact, you're not really fighting against zombies per se. You're defending yourself against the zombies, but it's not like you're going out there, because in zombie case, there's too many zombies for you to even have a chance of killing them all off and winning.
That's true here too.
Against the zombies. But the point of the matter is it's like you're protecting yourself, and you're trying to set up yourself for survival. And preparing for other stuff, and like preparing for a zombie situation, applies to other things right now, because just a couple hours ago or last night, there was tornadoes that tore across 5
Kansas?
different
in
couple
Kentucky.
states, Missouri, Kansas, Kentucky, so they all got hit. There's over almost 30 people dead in all those areas. Most of them are under strict curfews because of down power lines and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had a go bag like Robert, or if they had enough stuff in their house, they're going to be better off than those who aren't. And so it's a valid concern. So, well, we're at the top, so let's go around real quick and get everybody's last comments about what they think about surviving the zombie apocalypse, and how we should apply those thoughts right now so that we can handle anything coming. So we'll start with Step Pope Richard. Okay.
I've actually, what I just said is pretty much my final thoughts on that matter. So I'll just say, underline that thing I said before. Back up in the tape if you need to see it.
Okay. We just had a person pop in live. That's why I was saying that.
For all of our younger viewers, that's rewind the tape.
And it's not a tape, it's a digital video. Okay. You're showing you age there, Step Pope Richard. Robert.
It's obvious anyway, look.
Yeah, Robert, Jason Faith, what's your take on this whole situation?
I think that zombies don't have to be are not good or evil. They are something that you have to deal with, and it's not a morality thing. It is a survival thing. And so take care of your survival, and don't worry about killing the dead.
Okay.
Save the living.
Yeah, save the living.
Okay.
Save the cheerleaders. Save the cheerleaders. Save the world.
Okay. Okay. So, Bishop Sara?
So in addition to save the living, have your little go bag, build that community of appropriate resourced people. Get me a medic, get me somebody that has a paper book of botany with this plant will kill you, this plant is edible. And we'll
And we've got the
Have our little
margarita.
community.
We got the margarita stuff stockpiled here at the house. So
Okay, that's good. 'Cause,
see,
and some solar panels to run my blender.
yeah, that's Carl's responsibility to bring that. So
Yeah.
Dr.
yeah.
Jess. Oh wait, just Bishop Sara. Anything else?
No, just having a network of people and community that are appropriately resourced.
What kinds of zombies are we talking about is a question that pop up. Slow ones or the ones that run as fast as they can? That's always been
All of
my
them.
thing. Yeah, but we're just
All
doing
of them.
we're doing general view of zombie
Okay.
survival.
Do I get my 2 cents now?
Well, I was responding to somebody who
took
actually
all of-
asked a question.
That's true.
But we're
They
going to
took
end
all
up with
of the
you.
good. They took all of the good things, so I'm just going to summarize it all. That zombie apocalypse is now. That the red hats, or whatever you want to call them, fast zombies, slow zombies, they are here, and they're not good, they're not bad, they just are. And yeah, sometimes they're going to hoard all the toilet paper and ammo, and that's okay, because we're going to have communities and connection and people and take care of each other.
And Robert knows how to make toilet paper.
And they can't outlast us because we have community.
And Robert knows how to make toilet paper, so that makes it all better.
Not toilet paper. I know how to make paper, but not toilet paper.
This person, one person in chat says, I've had these conversations with my friends so many times. And so have we. And one of the things I just want to reiterate closing out here, that while we're talking about zombie apocalypse and survival, like Dr. Jess said, the whole point of the conversation and approaching it as if you're stockpiling the stuff in your house as a survival type thing, if you're stockpiling food and everything, if you approach it as if you're stockpiling for a zombie apocalypse, you'll still be prepared for anything else that happens. And that's the point. Sometimes if it comes in normal paper, that will work. Yeah, normal paper for toilet paper. Toilet paper is like a lot bigger importance than people think. But the point of the matter is, if we prepare like we're looking forward to a zombie apocalypse, it's not as stressful as trying to prepare for a real apocalypse. And
less scary than Yellowstone exploding.
Yep. And what did you say, Dr. Jess? How to avoid getting into that prepper mindset?
Is to make sure that you only control what you can control, and you're not gonna stockpile toilet paper for 6 months. You're gonna do what's appropriate.
And
I don't know. I buy the big pack of toilet paper and it lasts me for a year.
That's because you're by yourself there, Robert.
Yeah.
Not here.
Not here. Anyway.
So bonus staying alone.
But that's not community, Robert. We're talking about.
I'll come see you guys when I run out of toilet paper.
We'll have the Constantino wire around the place so that you can hang out in the pool and everything.
Do the secret knock.
Yes. As a final note before we close out for the day, I would like to. This person. I like answering these people who ask questions because it's audience participation and everything. And he says that it would feel easier for people in the countryside to survive, but harder to find supplies. I think that depends on what type of supplies you're looking for, because me and Dr. Jess have watched a lot of episodes of Alone, and you can find a lot of supplies out there if you look right. But if you want to live on periwinkles and squirrels, you might want to think about that again. So I want to finish up by my comment about this whole thing. If there's going to be zombies, they're going to be fast zombies. So what's the point in the first place? And we're all going to die. But, it's nice to know other people's attitudes about it. So everybody say bye, and we'll be back next Saturday.
Bye, and we'll be back next Saturday.
Thank you, Robert, for being the only one who.
Patreon.
Thank you for being the
Patreon.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. This is how bad we are at this, people. But just so people know, this is how bad we are at running not only a YouTube channel, but a cult in and of itself.
Yeah, this is a for-profit cult. We're looking to buy a private island so that
Yeah,
we can avoid the zombies.
Yeah.
Please send money. And
Please send money.
you know,
Please say-
we've got 90 cents so far.
monthly. That's
Monthly,
90
we have
cents
90
monthly.
cents.
Did somebody post in the chat the link to the Patreon just because? I don't
I'll
know.
leave that for Richard.
But the point of the matter is like I said, like and subscribe, ring the bell, do whatever. We go to our website and find out about the 5 tenets that we promote, and find out about the rule of failure is not an option that we have, because we personify that on so many levels. I'll leave it as a surprise of what that actually is, because obviously
Michael, I've been
What?
meaning to mention it for the longest time. I found the source for that. Failure is not an option. It's mandatory, or it's required.
Yeah, it's a mandatory. Yeah.
Yeah, I found a cartoon with it. It's like 15 years old or something.
Oh,
Oh,
look,
cool.
Carl was taking it from somebody, trying to pass it off as his own idea. Good job calling Carl out on that one, I tell you.
All right. So we're gonna
Anyway.
hang up now.
All right.
All right.
We're done
Bye,
yet?
everybody.
Bye.
You guys have
See you
a
next
great
Saturday.
day. See you next Saturday. If I can figure out how to do this.